Uh-oh.
Now he started.
Now we started. Okay. Is that your house, Don, or is that like a nice backdrop?
I wish it was my house. Can you imagine?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. Thanks for the picture. All right. All right.
Is that Morali's house? Her nanny's house?
I don't think so.
Ladies Academy.
Okay. Okay. So how are we doing this week?
Pretty good. Fair to Midland.
Fair to Midland? It's Samsara, isn't it? What does that mean?
Could be worse.
Okay. All right. How many people did the meditation this morning? Okay, are y'all feeling quite meditated? You know, heavily meditated? Good enough? Okay, good. So. So now I need to get in your space. So, because I'm not heavily meditated today. So. So what do we usually do at the beginning?
Set an intention.
Repeat that, please.
Set an intention.
Set an intention. Yes. So who has an intention for us?
Gratitude.
Huh?
Keep the prayers open.
I can.
It's on the desktop.
Yeah.
34.
So setting an intention. So what's an example of an intention?
Can be, I'm going to go to the Dharma Center to meditate today
Yes.
in order to
Yeah.
develop a peaceful mind,
In
be of
order.
benefit to others.
And we love to say to benefit all sentient beings.
Say it till it's true. Huh?
Say it till it's true. Yeah. So it's just to put an imprint in our minds so that, you know, at some point it just naturally arises. It's like if you go to the hospital, you know, and you're sitting there waiting and 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 waiting, as we do in all our ERs, you just, you know, you can just kind of suddenly think, oh, I'm not the only one suffering in this room, in this building, in this, you know, you just keep expanding it out, you know, and then you can find it just kind of naturally arises, you know. So it's just sending out compassion to everybody, yourself included. So an intention is just a way to consciously, intentionally, you know, set your mind in the direction you want it to go. It won't stay there for long, perhaps, but it's, you know, it's much easier to kind of catch yourself at some point when you're off in the, you know, like, I can't believe they did that to me, whatever, and be able to come back to like, oh, that wasn't my intention today. Let me try to have a more positive, calm state of mind, whatever it is, you know. Practicing our anger or practicing our ability to worry about everything, it doesn't give us a peaceful mind. So, you know, so when we set intentions, and it's really nice to set an intention when you begin anything, so like coming to, so you've done the meditation intention. Now you're in class, so you can set an intention for the class. And then when you leave here, you can set an intention to drive safely, and then you can, it's nice to have a way, because like driving is one of the best ways to have best places to have a calm mind, because what happens when you have a careless mind?
Crash.
You crash. And what happens then?
Suffering.
Suffering, you and others, and your bank account. I mean, everything suffers. So it's this, so it's really it's an easy one to practice an intention with, is to kind of go, oh, I'm getting into what is essentially a weapon. May I treat it with respect and pay attention? It is not just simply to get me where I want to go. I need to get where I want to go with respect to all the other people who are trying to get where they want to go, and just let's do it safely. Don't be distracted, blah, 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 it's easier to be not an angry driver, if you set an intention, or a frustrated driver, or an impatient driver. So anyway, so now everybody try to set an intention for this class. And it can just be something like, well, I intend to try to pay attention and see if I learn anything new, see what I think. Try to just listen. I'm just going to try to listen, not make judgments. And I'm doing it to help my peace of mind, and with the wish that my peace of mind will benefit those around me. And then you can just imagine that rippling out to benefit all sentient beings. So we'll recite these prayers. So we start with the 4 measurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. So of course, if you take refuge in Buddhism, if you take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, encourage you to recite this prayer. If you do not, don't feel like you have to, you can just read and kind of be curious about what does this mean? So I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit sentient beings. Hi, Mary. Hi, Sherry. Sherry, I have some sand from a sand mandala I need to mail to you so you can put it in a river. Could you hear that? Okay. All right. So I'll need your address.
Okay, thank you so much,
Yeah. Okay.
Venerable.
Hi, John. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Christina. Hi, Esther.
Good morning.
Okay. This is when I feel like Sherry Lewis. Y'all are all too young. Okay.
Oh,
So
what was the name of the lamb? Lammy?
lamb chop.
Lamb chops.
I have one. That's pretty weird. Okay, so.
I have to say, it's so good to see you again.
It's good to see you too.
These months, I'm
Yeah. Thanks, Sherry.
for everyone.
Um, so what have y'all been learning?
What I have to learn.
Oh, yeah, well, that'd be convenient. I tend to learn things I really didn't need to know. So. Not a thing. Okay.
Been doing Loshan.
And what does that mean?
Mind training.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
If I can train my mind, nothing else, nothing can disturb me.
And why is that important?
We're easily disturbed.
True.
I'm easily disturbed.
Okay, but what is it about being disturbed? What does that mean in the first place?
You don't have peace of mind.
You don't have peace of mind.
They're negative emotions, thoughts, and non-virtuous.
Negative things arise. What can those negative things look like? I mean, what types of states of mind? Yeah, anger, frustration,
Anxiety,
Better than somebody else.
pride,
anxiety,
anxiety,
Impatience,
impatience, depression,
fear,
fear,
hyper-independence.
Spite.
spite, resentment, belligerence,
Self-doubt.
self-doubt.
Oh.
Self-doubt's a biggie. Does anybody suffer from self-doubt? A lot. This cracks me up. You know, it's so funny. It's in Tibetans just look at us like, what are you talking about? It's like they're grown. They grown. That's not what that, nobody puts them in a pot. No, they grow up with this belief, or in this, what they're told all the time is that you have Buddha potential. That really counters self-doubt a lot. You don't start there. You don't start with, oh, I can't do anything. You start with, I can become a Buddha. And I can imagine in a child's mind how powerful that is. Might not work so much for adults, but if you start with that, if that's your starting point, is that you have the potential to become a Buddha, it kind of makes room for self-liking instead of self-loathing. So that's a nice place to start. So it's important when you read about Buddhism, read the teachings, think about the teachings, whatever, that you remember that when you think about all sentient beings, you are one of those. You matter, you count equally to all others. So not only do we want to generate the mind of compassion for all sentient beings, we want to remember to generate self-compassion, that just like me, others are suffering. That's how we start. It's just like me. Everybody is the same. We want happiness. We don't want suffering, and we mostly end up with suffering. So it's so important to remember that this isn't about just cherishing others. It's about having care and concern for everyone, including ourselves. What we're trying to develop is equanimity, where we equally care about ourselves and others, that we don't just think in terms of what we want. What do I want? What does my family want? What do my children want? What do my parents want? What do my friends want? What does my boss want? We can just keep going with the my, and then we stop. As soon as we've left the circle of my friends, my family, my job, we have a tendency to be a little indifferent. And what we're trying to do is recognize that that's not a smart way to think. That The things, it's just that same idea that you have to, that if we improve conditions for some, it can help more than that. The whole is greater than the parts or something like that, so. But we want to not leave ourselves out. Get this woman a chair. So, you want a cushion or a chair? I know you're okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
so. How are you, Gina? Good.
Good.
Oh. Thanks, Anthony. What do we need to help ourselves train our mind? What's one of the things we really need to do that?
Awareness of what's going on in your mind.
Yeah. Like, we have to check, hey, what's going on? And if we've set an intention, like, okay, I'm really going to work on my patience today, what do you have to look out for?
Impatience.
Anger.
And yes, anger, impatience, frustration.
My wife.
What?
My wife. I gotta look out for her.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's gonna be tough. So. And then what do we need to do when we realize, I've been hooked here. I'm feeling a little impatient here, or a little frustrated, or why can't that guy just hit the accelerator on his car? What do we need to do in that moment?
Pause.
Pause.
Breathe.
Just stop. Breathe.
Acknowledge.
Yeah, recognize it. Just kind of like, ooh.
Practice mindfulness.
Mindfulness is a key skill. If you want to become, change your habits, be able to choose your next moment, so you've paused, right? So if you want to be able to choose, I will not respond with impatience. I will not say anything, do anything. You need mindfulness. And what is the advantage of having a very sharp mindfulness?
Create a choice of a different action.
You have a choice of a different action,
Becomes a habit.
becomes a habit. And when it becomes a habit, what advantages do you have? Do you wait to the point, do you recognize your mind when it's impatient, or do you recognize your mind before that?
Before.
You notice the irritation before it becomes anger.
Right. And boy, we have a lot more freedom of choice when we're not already in the thick of a disturbing emotion.
I really needed that earlier today.
So did I. Because that guy in front of me wasn't putting on the accelerator. So but this is what we're up against, our mind. So what would I be thinking about if I'm, annoyed with the guy in front of me who's not driving like I think he should?
Harmful thoughts.
Hmm.
Harmful thoughts.
Well, not generally for me, but I hadn't reached that point. But what's the focus of my
All
thoughts?
about you. I want to get there on time.
You are in my way. I want to get to the center on time, like I'm ever late. I'm always early. It's stupid. And also, like, is that going to change with how the guy's driving in front of me? No. Total waste of time. Total waste of mind. So this shows you, I'm not very sharply mindful with impatience. Patience, one of my worst things. So, and I like to rationalize it. Oh, it's not about me. It's about the student. It's such a lie. We lie to ourselves all the time. So we want to recognize that there are certain skills that can really heighten our progress. You know, it just really helps us. It's a really good support. So what helps mindfulness? What does mindfulness mean?
Paying attention.
I didn't hear that.
Paying attention.
Paying attention.
Mm.
What else does it have? It does mean paying attention. What is with that?
Not forgetting,
Not forgetting what?
not forgetting.
To be mindful.
Not forgetting the
Your
object. Is it the object of your intent? Okay, yeah, yeah.
It's not forgetting the object of your intention. You know? So it's like you remember, oh, I wanted to practice patience today. You know, I want to be aware when I'm starting to get the slightest bit irritated, you know, or even before probably, you know. So mindfulness is not just knowing what's in your mind in that moment. It's also recollecting what your object of mind is, and that's your intention. So we have to really start to recognize how these pieces fit together. You know, that's why setting an intention is important. And then trying to remember what that was from periodically through the day. You know, it might be that you have a meeting, and so you set a particular intention for your meeting, you know, how you'd like to behave during that meeting, or how you would like to think, you know, or how you'd like to speak, you know, that kind of thing. And then you have to refresh that during the meeting, you know, so that you can remember it. You know, practicing this is helpful. So how can we practice mindfulness? Yes.
Observing your surrounding, your inner surroundings,
Your inner surroundings.
thoughts and behaviors.
So if you take a task, I remember Thich Nhat Hanh, I was in Plum Village for a while, and one of the rules when you live there is that, you know, it's pretty much you have to do one thing at a time, which means you walk, you don't talk. You talk, you're not doing anything else. You eat, you're not doing anything else. You know, you have very limited time for conversation. It's very interesting because you're either walking, eating, or sitting and go. It's very interesting. But one of the things he tried to teach us, he said in his house, there was a flight of stairs. And so every time he would go up or down the stairs, he would be mindful about it. That was his mindfulness practice, just the practice part, you know, so that while he walked up and down the stairs, he was aware of each step, the feel of his hand on the rail, the, you know, all that's going on, his state of mind while he's doing it, you know, and just trying to be settled in that activity. There's some really surprising things about doing that. It benefits. One is when your mind's not scurrying everywhere, it is restful. You know, if you have a particularly chaotic life at the moment, one of the best things you can do for yourself is rest your mind while you're doing something and recognizing you probably can't do two things at once. You know, like when you're brushing your teeth, you know, you probably can't be at the grocery store buying your groceries. So making your list for the groceries is probably not helpful at that moment. You know, so, and if that's your best time for remembering what you need to pick up at the grocery, keep a notepad by your sink or your phone, type it in so you can continue. But I tell you, it is amazing how restful it is to only focus on what you're doing right now. Yeah.
Should you sprinkle in gratitude when you're, or is that another mind trip? So while you're brushing your teeth, can you think, oh, it's amazing that I have this clean water coming out of my faucet? Like, is that okay? Or is it
Yes.
better to just say, I'm brushing my teeth, I'm brushing
No.
my teeth?
You don't even say, I'm brushing my teeth, I'm brushing my teeth. You know, so it's really just this idea that that's all you're thinking about. Oh, like you said, I have clean water and like that. clean, tomorrow my water's gonna be cut off for 5 hours and it's gonna be cut off Tuesday for 5 hours. And I'm gonna notice that. So being able to kind of think, wow, this is amazing. It's like amazing. Most of the world does not have that. So not only is it amazing, this is special. So, and then yes, so gratitude for that. Gratitude the fact that we have toothbrushes and toothpaste and whatever, because it all makes the task easier, more successful usually, more effective, maybe. So you can pick a practice that you do every day and make it your practice mindfulness. And so one of those things that you have to remember is what?
Your intention.
Of what?
Oh, being
Mindful while you do that task. Sounds ridiculous to repeat these little steps like this, but I tell you set yourself out to do it and then you don't do it. Or you do it once, and then 3 days later you go, oh, I meant to do that every day, yeah. So it is really helpful to just discover that if you're not letting your mind go all over the place, and that takes practice, to keep bringing your mind back. Oh, right now I'm walking up the stairs. I don't have to think about anything else. Right now, I'm going to get a glass of water and I'm going to drink that glass of water. That's an easy one at work. Just letting yourself just take that little mental break of focusing on that activity and how restful it is. Because it's exhausting the way we use our minds. And there's, and when your life is chaotic and lots is going on, you really need as much energy as you can have. So you don't need to be going elsewhere. I had the summer of nothing went according to plan, and I kept being reminded that, okay, just don't think about that. Just focus on what you're doing right now, So, and how helpful that is. It's really helpful. If you get caught up in how scared you are about what's happening right now, you get caught up in, like, I'm too tired to do this right now. If you get caught up in these other things, that's just going to drain you of even more energy. And if you really can stop and not do what you're doing, then stop doing what you're doing and rest. But if you have to just keep going, then you want mental breaks. You want to be able to rest your mind. And one of the greatest things for that is to focus on what you're doing at that moment, not focus on the 80 million things that are going to come afterwards. So, make sense?
Yes.
Why is that important?
Because you're in the present moment and your mind's not going all over the place.
We need to do things that make sense. We don't need to do it out of belief. We just need to do things that make sense. We don't have to, I'm a Buddhist, so I should be mindful. I locked my keys in the trunk of my car this summer. And the mindful nun. Guess what else was with my keys?
Your phone.
My phone. It's like 5 o'clock on a Saturday. I'm at a rehab center visiting someone. They didn't. So I don't have a phone. The person I'm visiting doesn't have a cell phone, doesn't have a phone. And just, oh my goodness. And it took me a while to think of what to do. Because part of me couldn't believe, because I can't lock my keys in my car, in the part of the car, but you can lock them in your trunk, by the way.
Good to know.
Yeah, good to know.
Yeah.
Good, and it's another reason to slow down. So,
Did you berate yourself?
oh, it was, I was so embarrassed. Why? I'm a Buddhist nun. And I just left my keys in the trunk of my car. I felt like my reputation was at stake. And if I remember correctly, I was in robes that day. Because sometimes when I'm out in the heat, I'm not wearing my robes. But no, of course, I'm a total advertisement for, not mine, no. So anyway, so yeah, I berated myself. And then but what happened? So these two women in wheelchairs who'd been, helped me find a locksmith. Because I don't have my phone. They don't have a phone. Nobody has a phone book. You have to look. It took an hour, but we finally found a locksmith who would come because it's 5 o'clock on a Saturday, It's $150 later,
Yeah.
I get my keys. But I had this wonderful experience with these two women. So every time I went to this rehab every day for about 6 weeks. And so I would see them most of the days, and it was just, so I had made this connection with these two women who really helped me out, and it was and they were very kind about, don't beat yourself up. It happens to everybody, One woman kept saying, I locked my 3-year-old in my car when, and she was like 70, 80 at this point, so she's talking about way back, but she'll never forget it, of course, so she was very sympathetic. So anyway, so what was the point of that? Had no point in it. It was just a fun story.
Mindfulness.
Mindfulness, yes.
The importance of it.
Be more mindful next time. Like you get out the.
Oh, I will never. I would, it's like, okay, I'm putting my keys in my pocket and they're never to come out. Because I can unlock the door with them in my pocket. I don't have to, because you don't have a pocket in robes, and that's part of the problem. But anyway, but we also need to do things, we want to, this is the whole point of investigating the teachings, is that we want to do things that make sense, not just because someone told us so. So we have to try it out. And we have to try it out more than once, to see if there's some benefit. And then we have to laugh about that sometimes you just can't do it. It's not happening. All summer was like that. It was for my whole family. Like, we went from our mom dying to, I went to my best friend who, the Dharma, who's been my oldest Dharma friend, was in the hospital, then rehab. Then, my brother had open heart surgery. That was the summer. I went from place to place. These were all in different cities, and, it's like I was scattered, and it wasn't much I could do. I had to accept the fact that, okay, you've got lots of things going on in your mind, because these were all important people in my circle, so it was difficult. And yet, being able to help others, I was able to help the whole we were all able to help each other through my stepmom's thing. So Joan is gone, no more Joan stories. Then we have, and then that being able to do something was so helpful, So really being able, my friend was having hallucinations, was very scared, all sorts of things going on, and being there, that's one advantage of the robes, is people who are in very disturbed states of mind can kind of recognize you if they're used to you, and those are, so it's like he always knew who I was. So, but it was just this, but it's this constant reminder that, okay, there are conditions that we'll be in that we won't be good at, whatever we've been trying to do. So you set an intention like, I'm just going to be here to help. I'm not going to worry about whether I do it perfectly, not perfectly, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to be here to help. And I'm just showing up as helpful, all that kind of stuff we tell ourselves, and it's all true. But it's, but don't worry about the fact that you've lost your phone 700 times this summer, because it's that kind of summer. So That's important to remember when you're trying to practice new things. It's so important to, no, in my case, it's not a new thing. You're going to have periods where you're just not up to it. And that's okay. You know, it doesn't mean it goes away entirely. I was certainly a nicer, kinder, more helpful person all summer than I would have been, 30 years ago. Because I'm a nicer, kinder person than I was 30 years ago. So, that's good news. So we don't lose it entirely. It's just that, so we want to be gentle with ourselves as we try to learn skills. Yes.
Just out of curiosity, what do you attribute that to? Being a nicer, kinder person?
Buddhism, totally.
Huh?
Buddhism.
This practice entirely.
Okay, I have the same experience. I was curious if that was yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I practice Buddhism because I'm a better person. That's the reason. The whole reason. I mean, it doesn't matter if any of it's true in terms of, the whole Buddhist view of the world view and what happens life after life and da 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 da. I go to sleep better at night because I behave better. So, and that's worth everything, because regret's a terrible way to feel. When you go to sleep, so that's why it's so nice that we have these bookend practices. You set this intention, this motivation at the beginning, and at the end, you kind of go, I didn't do so good on that, but I did great on this. And you do a little cleaning up of your day's activities in your mind and go, oh, I'm going to try harder. I'm going to do better. And then you also do, a little rejoicing. Ooh, I'm getting the hang of this, and feel happy. I want to keep doing that, and that helps us start again the next day. So, and that's a lot better than going to sleep going, can't believe I said that, did that, thought that, whatever. So mind training, mindfulness. So practicing mindfulness. What helps us practice mindfulness? Like you've been learning, those of you who are taking, showing up for meditation. One of the things, so we have a couple of types of meditation, right? So we have sort of like an analytical meditation where we're actually thinking about the teachings and we're kind of trying to, is that true? Is it, let me think about my experience, and you're kind of contemplating about that. And then you have single pointed meditation where, say, something rings true to you and you stop and you try to let that sink in, and so you just hold your focus on that experience of, oh, that's true, and let that sink deep. So you also need this ability to focus on one point. That helps mindfulness tremendously. The fact, because that helps you hold the object. You can remember what the point of your day is. You can remember what the point of this meeting is. I remember when I first started in Buddhism, I had a job, it's not important. But I had to present things to people. I was trying, and I had to we're trying to create a system, try to convince the government that we had a reason to exist. Anyway, so we weren't successful. Anyway, but I'd be really nervous, as part of my habit. I was really nervous before going into any of these meetings, and having to say, oh, okay, this is what I think, blah, 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 blah. So I had to really focus on, it's not about you. It's not about your reputation. Doesn't matter if you sound like an idiot. You need to go in and present. You need to listen to people respond. That's all. You just need to listen to what their view is. You need to learn. You need to be able to, this is not, it's just a process. And you have the opportunity to learn from all these other people. So let go of any thought, because it's not about you. It really is, I'm telling myself this. It really is about the organization, the purpose, the cause of the organization, and we were trying to help it succeed. And I don't care who makes it succeed. Let's just, so don't worry about, your ego going in here. It helps so much. I had to do it every time, but it helps so much to give me the space to just listen, to just take in the critiques and oh, let's do this. And it helped me get things better, improve all the system. So, it really was helpful. I had a point. What was the point?
You're talking about the different types of meditation.
Different types of meditation. Yeah, and single pointed. So you have to remember, like the point. Okay, I'm getting old. So cut me some slack. And so, when you meditate, when you actually just even practice single pointed meditation, where it isn't like you've done some analytical meditation and then you zero in on some understanding that you didn't have before, where you just sit and try to focus on something. Do y'all all do that? I'm not seeing the same number of hands, but some, a little bit, try, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about that. It seems like I try to do that daily, but it seems like I'm much worse at it now than I was years ago. And
So what is that
that's
called?
frustrating.
It's a projection. Now you're projected,
Emma,
you
what does
know.
that mean?
That means that you're making up a story about how it was years ago. You're projecting an image of yourself as a younger person who didn't have as much difficulty as you do now.
Okay,
So what's the point of that?
it's a waste of time, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good rationalization. You see, this is what we're really good at. I don't have to do this.
No, I mean, it's a waste of time to think that way.
Yes. So when that thought comes up, you can just say it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if I was bad at it yesterday. It has nothing to do with now. Really staying with what you're doing now and not judging it after the fact, not going, oh, that was a good meditation. That was a bad meditation. That was successful meditation. It has no meaning. What's the purpose of meditation overall? Or what's the purpose of single pointed meditation, do you think?
Focus.
Focus. What does that do for you, your mind?
Stabilizes it.
It allows you to be in the moment.
Yeah.
instead of Calms my.
Calm. Allows your mind to be still and calm. Yeah.
But I have a curiosity. What do you actually consider meditation? Because people think meditation is you just need with your
Yeah, you can say, I can't even do that.
But
Yeah.
then, if I love to walk on I have a
But-
park by my house with a lake. And to me, it's just amazing to walk around and you see the ducks and you see the owls and you're just, I feel that I am on the moment, but I am not.
That's being present. And being present in the moment is a type of mindfulness.
But would not be necessarily.
It can be walking meditation if it's really focused.
Okay.
Okay. And it can be even just like what I used to do with walking meditation, my walking meditation version was really that I realized that how important it was for me to see something beautiful every day. So I realized it really wasn't a walking meditation. It was notice something beautiful meditation. So when I'd walk, and when I was going through a really ugly divorce, actually it wasn't really all that ugly, but it was painful. I realized every day I saw something beautiful and how before I started doing that, it wasn't true. I'd miss, I would go several days, months even without seeing anything beautiful. So yes, I do think those are things, anything that we're allowing ourselves to not chase a whole bunch of other stuff that's not happening right now is a type of meditation. It's a meditative state, and that's really important. Single pointed meditation is more specific.
Okay.
Okay, so single pointed is where you pick an object and you rest your mind on that object. And every time your mind strays from that object, you bring it back to the object. And if that means 300 times you bring it back, that's fine. If you have to bring it back 300 times, it probably means you've sat too long. You know, whenever we meditate, you should get up when it's no longer fun. You don't wait till it's not fun, it's stop. You get up going, oh, this is nice, and you get up. We want to, you know, you want to like it. You don't want to develop an aversion to it. Okay. So single point, it doesn't matter how you sit, although it's helpful to have your back straight because that does something to the energies and it makes you, and you're more stable. So having your feet, you know, like if you're sitting in a chair, you have your feet on the floor, and if your feet don't reach the floor, you put a cushion underneath them. So you're not unstable physically. You try to sit up straight. The easiest chair for you to sit up straight in is your desk chair. Sit on your chair. You know. If you're good at sitting cross-legged, that's a very stable posture if you're good at it. If you're not good at it, it's probably not such a stable, you probably squirm and fidget the whole time. So that's what you're thinking about, is the discomfort in the body, you know. Hi, Brian, I didn't see you earlier. So single pointed meditation. There are different types. What's one that we're all probably familiar with?
The breath?
The breath. The object is the breath. That's exciting. So what does the fact that the object is the breath teach you right off the bat about single pointed meditation?
Being moment to moment. Doesn't have to be a thing.
No, it's helpful to have something that's there with you all the time, hopefully, because when it's not, it doesn't matter whether you can meditate or not. Okay.
Your breath is always hard. It helps get into your heart when you settle down.
It can help you get to your inner processes.
The simplicity of it.
The simplicity. So it can be boring. Does boring come to mind? You know?
Story.
So that's one of the things for, you know, like some people, you know, when they sit down, they just think, what is the point of this? This is ridiculous. So you have to, you know, approach it with, you know, a certain understanding of mind. Yes, it's not like it's an exciting activity. We're trying to achieve something that helps us be able to have a calm, peaceful, still mind, you know? So you don't do that while you're at a rock concert. You know, that's not just why you're there, you know? Even when you're walking, you're not really, you know, that's not, maybe not your purpose. Now it can be, depending on how you've set your mind, because you can have single pointed concentration no matter what you're doing when you're very skilled at it. You know, that's very skilled. Don't aim for that. Takes years of practice to be able to hold your attention there. So holding your attention on your breath. So you start off with just trying to follow 7 breaths, you know. Every time you breathe out, you 1, 2. And if you lose track, you start again at 1. And you try to get up to some number, like, you know, maybe you're really bad at it and you need to get up to 3. Fine. Do 3. Then you can move up to 5. Then maybe 7. Then you try to get to 21 because that's a certain length of time. You know, that's more stable if you're able to do it to 21. You know, but you don't try to do, you know, like if you keep restarting, you still get up at, you know, you say, okay, I'm going to do this for 2 minutes. And then maybe you'll do it for 3 minutes. And then maybe you'll do it for 5 minutes. But you start small, you know. You know, don't go too long. Because then yes.
I read something recently that it said it was even more effective to only focus on your out breath. Sort of a pause there instead of in, out, just out.
Yeah, that's why it's just, you just count 1/2 of the thing. That's sort of the same idea.
Better to just.
I don't think better is the appropriate word.
More calming.
No, I think it's mostly focus. So you can see how if you kind of go in, out, depending on who you are, that might be too many ins out. So just thinking out. Some people just focus on the pause. People who have a habit of like yoga and breathing exercises and stuff and who have a long in-breath and out-breath kind of focus on the pause. But these, so you have to, but you just choose one thing to do. You don't even have to count. But counting shows you whether or not you're making progress. That's the only advantage of it. That's a pretty big advantage. So because you need to know, am I focused or not focused? If you sit there for 2 minutes and you can't get up to 3, not a good time to be doing it. Just move on. Don't worry about it. Don't say, oh, I got to try harder. No, you don't have to fight with yourself. That's not the point. You're trying to develop a calm mind, not a really irritated mind with yourself. So, but you do want to try to do, you have to set an intention. Okay, I'm going to try this later today. I'm going to try this tomorrow, and try to do that. Yeah. Another method is to just place your awareness on awareness itself. This is a harder method to me, may not be harder to you. So what does that mean? Just being aware of awareness. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
You're the observer of whatever's coming up, thoughts, feelings, emotions.
You just notice.
Notice.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a good practice for learning how to be aware of what's going on in your mind and not following it. The thought arises, you let it go. You don't start a story. Oh, it's not a beginning of a sentence or a beginning of a paragraph or a beginning of a whole story that keeps you busy for 5 minutes and then you can get up because the alarm went off. It's an idea of just being still and just noticing and not worrying about what comes up or doesn't come up. Awareness is this capacity we have to reflect what's going on, whether it's the mind reflects a thought. If you get anger, the mind kind of takes on the aspect of anger, becomes this angry mountain, but there's a container for that, and that's just awareness itself. If you quit putting the anger in there, you still have a mind, it's just not angry at that moment. So trying to be able to just be with whatever and not follow whatever. If pain arises, you just don't follow it. You're just aware. Oh, knee hurts. Let it go. When do you need to take in the knee hurts?
When that's all you should focus on.
Well, no, you might want to, sometimes if your knee hurts, sometimes it helps to just kind of go there for a moment and notice when it stops. Because our pain even changes constantly. So if you have a lot of pain, that's one thing you can do with that. Yeah.
In the meditation this morning,
Mm-hmm.
I had this terrible itch on my nose.
That's perfect.
Was going through my mind, what should I do? So he just said this, scratch it. That'll take it away, and then you can get back to the meditation.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you can choose 2 things to do with that. Is make it just be, this is interesting. What do we know about itches?
They don't last. If you scratch them, doesn't necessarily fix it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Just pops up somewhere else. Okay, good. So I scratched my nose, now my back itches. Yeah, it's interesting. But there's no need to do anything to an itch. It doesn't, in fact, in many cases, the last thing you want to do is scratch your itch. Like when you have you know, poison ivy or a sunburn or those things. It's like you have to train yourself, don't scratch the itch, you know? So, but it's interesting. And you can also just scratch the itch. You can change your position a little bit. Eventually, though, you can actually just live with it. What's the advantage of living with it?
Training your mind.
That phrase again. Yeah. Yes, training your mind. You're training your mind to not be reactive to what's happening. When is that helpful?
Always,
Hmm?
always.
Yeah. Like if I was sitting in my car and realized the guy in front of me isn't gonna, you know, whatever, is having trouble going forward, and I was not reactive, what would I be doing?
Practicing Dharma.
You know, and being just patiently waiting.
Mhm.
Whoop-de-doo. No big deal. No. But as soon as we get reactive, suddenly whatever is happening becomes a big deal. And we've just totally messed up our mind. You know. And we can't think clearly then. It's hard to come up with a solution when we let our mind just get hooked. You know, so we want to be aware that part of this of equanimity, of being able, whatever comes up, good or bad, tedious or not, you know, whatever, we don't have to react to it. We can recognize what's going on and then decide what's the next, whatever, sentence, action. But as soon as we get hooked, now sometimes it's appropriate to react. Like if you're driving and someone pulls in and you realize you're going to hit them, you need to react to that. And we have reflexes for that. But if you are mentally reactive and you're mad, how dare he? The odds are much better you're going to hit them because you're not paying enough attention to be able to press on the brake or swerve to avoid because your mind's taken up with the anger. Yeah.
So when you're observing that what's happening in your mind, a lot of emotion, those things becomes non-emotional. Right.
Yeah, they get calmer.
Right. So you're not reacting emotional.
Right.
You acknowledge the emotions you're having at that moment, and then they no longer becomes emotional.
They're not as powerful. And it's, you know, like I'm not going to tell anybody that you don't want to have the emotion of gratitude or love or compassion. I mean, those are fine, but we can also get over the top, can't we? You know, where oh, can you believe, you know, I mean, just look at the state for me, looking at the state of the world, I can get really upset about it. And it can all look nice. You know, I'm really worried about children in the future. I'm really worried about, you know, people having to have, you know, dumps next to their homes, you know, whatever. I mean, you know, there's no clean air. Blah, blah, blah. I can go on and on and on and on, you know. And then what comes from that?
Aversion.
Aversion to who?
People who you think are causing this
Yeah,
problem.
everybody else who are causing this problem, you know, until, you know, I'm the one who throws something plastic away. So, or buys plastic in the first place. You know, it's, you know, we need to watch, you know, if we're getting reactive to something as opposed to just reasoning and feel. I mean, you know, it's fine to have compassion. You know, you need to start to recognize when you're not just having compassion now. It's filled with attachment and possibly aversion. So, you know, that's a problem. Does everybody understand what I mean when I say attachment or aversion? Okay, both of those two are the polar opposites. One is attachment, and this is Buddhism, not attachment in the as we speak of it, like what do we speak of it? Mother, bonding with their children or something. Attachment in Buddhism is exaggerating the positive qualities of something you like, you know, and wanting to have it, you know, kind of thing. But it's this exaggeration. It's a lie, basically. You're exaggerating something. And have you ever exaggerated something and realized none of it was true? You know, and then aversion is exaggerating the negative qualities of something, where you see someone or some action is totally negative, nothing else is there. You know. And it's always about our perspective. That's where it comes from. It's our perspective. It's our, you know, what we like, and then we exaggerate that, or what we don't like, and we exaggerate that. It's never a correct state of mind. Never.
These things are neutral, right? I mean, it inherently something is neutral until you put your perspective on it.
Nothing is inherently anything, but yes, you know, it's just, it's, this is tricky because I don't want to imply there aren't actions that are negative and actions that are positive. There are actions that are negative and positive. Conventionally, that's how we, you know, we exist, you know, please don't murder me. But we need to recognize when we're not looking at something just from the point of view of like, okay, is this a problem, not a problem? How can we fix this? Blah, 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 blah. And we're generating this kind of thing. I have to have it this way, or I have to have it not this way. You know, when we get hooked by it, you know, when we put something in there, which is our perspective, what I want, you know, that clouds our view. You know, self-interest clouds our view. We can't see wisdom then because we're in the way. You know, haven't you ever had, you know, you're talking to your kid, and I don't have kids, so this is a totally made up story. You know, you're talking to your kid and you're thinking, oh, you know, you might really want to look into this school. You know, they have this department and that department, you know, and in your mind, you're going, yeah, I really want them to go, you know, and you know, that's really not appropriate. You know that, you know, but you're still kind of going, trying to kind of, no. You know, we do that. You know, when we really don't know what's best for someone else, we can guide your children, you know, we might be the best guides of our children, you know, but we really don't know what will turn out to work best for someone. You know, we can only hope for that. How many people have had terrible experiences in their lives that really benefited you in the long run? Yeah. So there's no really reason, even with your children, to be extremely hooked by the fact that something terrible happened. Because maybe it'll turn out to be one of the best things that they experienced in terms of learning, in terms of growing up, in terms of just, you know, discovering something about themselves, you know, who knows? You know, what's important is to be there and have compassion for their suffering, have, you know, be able to support whatever it is, you know, but wishing it hadn't happened to my kid is getting into that, you know, attachment and aversion. And that is an exaggeration. So it's not wisdom. Can't be. So being able to help kind of chill our minds down can help us in these moments that are more chaotic, to just be able to see more clearly what's really going on here, you know, and don't make it all about me. You know, if I just take myself, this is what I used to do all the time. If I just take me out of the picture, what would it look like? You know, so that you can see more clearly. So you can choose how you want to respond, what you want to do, whatever. Does that make sense? So Geshe Gillett, who's the resident teacher up at a center in North Carolina, who I was able to receive teachings from this summer. His way of describing like trying to be aware of your awareness. And he was getting help from somebody to translate it into English. This is how it came out. Don't think of whatever you're thinking of. Okay. Whatever, and don't think you're not thinking of a thing. You know, you just observe, like you were saying, whatever comes up, and not be reactive to it. Let it go. Like, you know, you gave the itch a concerted effort to let it just stop, you know, and so that kind of thing. We just, you know, we don't have to react. We just pause and see if it just goes away. You know, want to practice that? It's hard.
It's hard.
I admit that it's hard. Somebody have their hand up. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. I also think that's the hardest part. And I did read something about that the person suggested that you detach yourself from your thoughts. And this person specifically, he almost tries to picture him above his head as he's watching all the thoughts and the reaction.
Yeah, that's a way to, you know, what you don't want to do is at some point, way down the road, so it's not really important now, so why don't I just shut up? Okay, let's think about that. It is like, you know, that just like one of the things that I find very helpful is when something wild happens, you know, not in the moment, this won't happen. But when you're reflecting on that, is to look at it as if you're watching a movie, you know, and these are all the characters in the movie and you're one of them, and but you're just watching it and kind of looking at it in it from a different angle, from other people's perspectives, and da 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 da. You know, how did it unfold like this kind of thing? And that can be very useful to putting some distance between you and the emotions you felt at the time, you know, and so it's very helpful to be able to reflect. Oh, could have I handled this differently? You know, what might it have looked like this way or that way? And just what really did happen and what did I just imagine happening, which are quite often different. So, but this idea of being able to, you know, the same thing that you're observing your thoughts and not seeing them as my thoughts. Thought.
And not identifying you.
Right, with you. Yeah. So it's really that kind of thing. It's just a thought. You know, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of becoming a better person, I am finding that doing that more and more and more and realizing what a jerk I've been more and more and more
Yeah.
really helps me a lot.
Yes. Yeah, it's like, whoa, that was really kind of not a nice thing to do or say or think, you know? Yeah. And it's like, and it gives you all the power in the world, all the power you need to stop doing it. You know, that's what's wonderful about watching your mind and starting to use your, you know, like, look, oh, what do I think about this? If it's, you know, and what's hilarious is so often when we're doing those jerk-like things, we think it's going to make us happy. We're trying to get some happiness in that moment to show we're smarter than, to show that we're, you know, I don't know what, you know, but it's not the way to happiness. In fact, it's the way to not be happy. So it's good to recognize that and move on, you know? But it takes practice and it does take a sense of humor. Yeah.
When you say distancing, you know, about distancing yourself from emotions, could you tell me a little more about that using equanimity?
Okay, one thing that is important is when you're like reviewing something like it's a movie, you know, you're reviewing yesterday's whatever conversation and you're watching it like a movie. one thing you can do, you're able to do when you look at it that way, is not be judgmental about what's happening. You're just watching, and you're just kind of going, upset there. You're watching yourself. Oh, I was upset there, blah, 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 but not judging that, just not, whatever. This is a way of just learning what happened, and it's not going to be accurate. Why is it not going to be accurate? Because it's your story. It's your version of the story, so that's okay. That's all we got to work with. We never have anybody else's version. We only have our own, so but being able to, but it's not happening right now. That's one of the big things about it, is that if you start to feel like, you're practicing your anger or something, that it's arising again, stop. Because it's not doing what you want to do. Then you're just rehearsing your anger. You're looking for justification for why you felt that way. If you were hurt, and it starts stirring that up, then you need to go, okay, I'm not able to look at this yet. There's not enough distance. So then what do? You comfort that hurt. If you're still feeling hurt, you want to just be there for yourself. Doesn't mean you need to justify it or blame the other person. That's never helpful. Our hurt is our hurt, not someone else's action. Yep.
I love that. Can you give me an example of how to soothe the hurt? Because I like chocolate milkshakes.
Yeah.
That's probably not the best way.
No, yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, yeah. It's my thing. I ate more chocolate cookies this summer than, ever. Yeah, yeah. So my favorite is Thich Nhat Hanh used to say, first he would say with disturbing emotion, go, oh, hello, friend, I know you. But his example was like, okay, if you have a crying baby, what's the first thing you do?
Hold it.
Hold it.
Yeah, well, you need to do that. Just hold yourself in that place. You don't need a conversation. You don't need to justify feeling hurt. You don't need to, find blame for why you're hurt. You just hurt. His example would be like when your right hand smashes your left thumb with a hammer, the right hand doesn't go, you shouldn't have gotten in the way. It just holds it. So these are the ways in which we can, it's okay to give yourself a pause. Oh, that hurt. Just pause. And later you might be able to see where it came from. Oh, when he said that, it reminded me of how I felt as a child when somebody said that. And that's not what's happening now. I'm not a child. It's not my brother. It's not, blah, blah, blah. So we can separate ourselves from what action is happening now. Then other things might be, oh, this seems to the same old story. We do this again and again. And then we have to kind of, but if we comfort ourselves, then we don't need to attack the other person that we're blaming for it. Because
That applies to the past also.
That apply, oh yeah, to everything. Yeah. Yeah, it's really important. Like, cause when I was leaving my brother after, when I came Friday, in Oregon, I'm looking at him saying, oh, thank you for letting me come and help you with this, And then I burst into tears. I said, and I think I'm going to forgive you for the fact that 40 years ago, you were in the hospital and you didn't tell any of us. And I was really mad, but that was an old hurt. And it was like, it just blurted out of me. I was just in tears and just, boom. You never know. We store these things, it's ridiculous, but it's what we do. So it's like, we want to just, oh, that's what we do. That's okay. And it turned out that my version of the story was completely wrong. But I didn't have any information. So you make something up, I guess, so anyway. But that was nobody's fault. And I don't have to feel bad about having this hurt either. Doesn't matter if I was wrong. It's the fact that I was wounded by it that moment. And now I comforted myself for it. So we can do that, we can have these, and it's not pleasant to have an old hurt surface. It's not pleasant. It just doesn't mean we have to search around for the fault and the cause and blah, blah, blah. That's a waste of time. We just need to treat the hurt. You don't go into the emergency room and have the doctor just go, okay, let's see how you got into this mess. Excuse me, I want you to like sew this up before I bleed out. It's just not like that. So we need to be a lot more cautious as we respond to ourselves and others. Just pause a moment, think, it's a careless mind that causes so much damage. Like Shanti Deva's verse about the elephant, that our mind's like a wild elephant, but if we tie it to a post with mindfulness, then, we can quit being afraid of the wild elephant. We can take charge of our minds. Doesn't mean thoughts won't arise. We can't change, that's going to come up. Whatever the thoughts are, we do not have to respond to the thoughts. We don't have to follow the thoughts. We don't have to make a story up about our thoughts. It's just a thought. And so when we have a negative thought arise, we can go, maybe not going to follow that one. If gratitude arises, then maybe I will follow that one. Let me have that feeling, When we're in the thick of something, when it's already arisen, about the best we can do is not do anything else. Just pause, not respond from that place of the disturbing emotion. Give yourself a minute. And sometimes you have to just say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to think about that. And just walk away. Sometimes we just need more space and time. It's good modeling for children. So. Okay, so have we talked our way out of having to do this for a few minutes? To observe our mind? Let's. Okay, for those of you who are not at all comfortable with just trying to sit with your mind, you can count your breath. Okay, yes.
So is this also the same as Vipassana meditation?
Vipassana?
Yeah.
Vipassana is insight meditation, actually. So it's not used in the same way in Tibetan Buddhism than perhaps what you're referring to. Goenka doesn't, it's a different, Vipassana is really that process where you've already developed perfect single pointed meditation. You place it on an object and insight arises. So that's where we want to go eventually, but it's not what there's the single pointed is shamatha or shine in Tibetan, so it's a little different. It's a precursor. Is that right? Precursor?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, whatever. I was an English major, can't you tell? Oh, so, all right. So those of you who want to just follow your breath, you don't have to control your breath. It doesn't have to be deep breath. It can be shallow breath. It can be a mixture of all the above. It doesn't matter. It's just trying to hold your attention on either the sensation as it's coming in and out of the nose or your belly rising and falling, just following that and counting the out breath as it leaves your breath. Yes.
You want the light on or off?
I don't care. Does people want the light off? Does that help?
Yeah,
That helps, I think so.
Okay. In the future, what you want to, eventually you want to be able to meditate with your eyes open. so that nothing distracts you. Ooh, okay, that's interesting. Okay, I have a great big bell here. Okay, for those of you who are going to try to just sit with awareness, where you're just aware of your awareness, again, you try to have your back straight, but and again, it's a relaxed, you don't have to be tense about it. Of course, if you're like me, you will be tense about it, but that's okay too. And you're not focusing in on anything except the space between thoughts. So a thought arises, you let it go, you notice the space between thoughts. It's just a recognition. Doesn't even have to, it's not even as long as, a moment. It's, you just let it go. And you don't have to think, let it go. If you need to think that, sometimes we do. So how many minutes you want to give it a try? 5. Okay, do 5. That seems reasonable to me. So take a few deep breaths, everybody. Just take a few deep breaths and settle in your body. And if you get caught up in thoughts, you can always go back to your breath. And we begin. Lights, please. How'd it go?
Good for the first 3 minutes.
So 3 minutes next time, right?
Well, yeah, then I realized it's okay. All right, I'm noticing it, and then when the bell went, I said, "Oh, I was caught." Yeah. You want to have that feeling?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, it was it.
all right. So just allowing yourself to sit quietly for 5 minutes is a good start. And then when worries come up, just not now. I don't know if anybody has trouble sleeping. One of the ways I got over that was keeping a piece of paper next to the bed, and any worry would come and I'd write it down, go, and then when it would come up, I'd go, okay, I've written it down. You're not going to forget about it, and I had to do that for a long time before I could actually let it go, and just da 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 da. But it worked very well. Anyway, okay, now what?
Quick announcements. So, Venerable Tendra will be here for the month of October, and we have courses on Sundays, which are like the lighter Dharma topics. And then Tuesdays, we're doing Foundations of Buddhist Practice. So, a bit more formal, discussing.
What are we
Buddhist-
discussing in that? I have
Daily-
no idea. Daily practice. Okay.
And then Thursday is an introduction to Buddhist refuge.
Refuge. Okay.
And so those are Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And for a few of us will be out of town for this month for varying lengths of time for the pilgrimage that Venerable Calden's leading. So myself and Jack, for example, Rebecca and Don, as well as online. So appreciate additional support while we're gone, right?
Yeah,
So
like
if you see.
when I can't work the computer.
Yeah, so yeah, if you're interested in being in these courses on Tuesdays and Thursdays, especially maybe deepening your practice and developing or strengthening your understanding of Buddhism, feel definitely attend those classes, and we could use help opening the center, preparing the altars. And Venerable, did you want to mention that you were able to find help with the moving?
Next weekend, I'm going to try to move some of my stuff into storage. And either Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, if you have an SUV or are strong, strong people, whatever. My website, what do you call it? Email. My email address is tendron108.
TENDRON.
Oh, that's probably good to say. T is in Tom, E is in Edward, N is in Nancy, D is in dog, R is in Robert, O is in Oliver, and N is in Nancy, 108@yahoo.com. So let me know.
Next weekend?
This coming weekend. Yeah, if it rains, it won't happen. I do have a working elevator again.
You have an idea about what time?
No, I'm gonna let the person who's really strong set the time. So I have to get in touch with him. Because there are 4 objects. There are 4 objects that won't fit in the elevator and they have to be carried down. I'm on the 3rd floor. So I have a
How many hours
professional.
will it take?
Not everybody. I do need some people who have like an SUV. No, I don't. I don't need that. Never mind that part because I'm going to rent a truck. So I think maybe, what do you think? 6 people that are strong. I have a professional like,
Dolly.
yes, dolly hand truck, huge. So you have to be strong to do that. Use that. Anyway, but if you happen to be able to have time or whatever, just get in touch with me. And I'll respond, and I may not need you, I'll tell you the time, but I know that, so whatever. If you have a preference for time, tell me that. Okay, is that all right? Anyway. So, okay. So now this is the other bookend of where, we set an intention in the beginning. And then we want to dedicate our, positive efforts, positive thoughts to be of benefit to all sentient beings, to help us. So Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may we quickly attain the state of Guru Buddhas and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not
More and more.
just as the brave Manjushri and Samanta Bhadratu. Let's skip to page 244 or 46. 246. These are great intentions for, just these are the kinds of positive thoughts we want to develop a habit of generating. Okay. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one live or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sound. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drink. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound to be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as faith remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then back to His Holiness, 244. Yeah. In the land encircled by snow, you were the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until Sara ends. And then
Is that sharing or?
yes, well, it is on my screen. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of victorious one, Bravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas. Victorious Lozan, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teaching through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of the children of victorious one, may a trial of a reincarnation swiftly be glory proportionate to such. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good week. Try to pick something, just some activity, and try to see if you can be mindful about it throughout the whole activity. Good luck. Thank you.